what is your most repetitive advice? What do you have to say all the time?
It's in your gun. Check your gun.
You shouldn't have to say anymore, Ken. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
That's it. That's you know what?
This is the one and only, the original podcast where you can find yours and your business's true value. You're listening to Our Value.
Brought to you by America's insulation source, IDI Distributors.
You want to hear from the best contractors, suppliers, and consultants that dedicate themselves to more than just survival in the business world?
Industry professionals that are dedicated to excellence in every aspect of their business.
Our Value has them all here to share that same motivation and knowledge with you. Tune in and grow a more successful, profitable, educated, and recognized business. Listen to the Our Value podcast to become the industry leader in your market. Find your value with Our Value.
Welcome all of you to the Our Value podcast. This week we have something completely and entirely different for you. That's right, we are not interviewing a guest. Well, I should call them guests, but instead we are going to talk to the 4 senior spray foam technicians for IDI. That's right, we're going to talk to foamers gone wild, people out in the field that see nothing normal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with these guys and introduce them to you, but let me start with Frank the Tank out of Arizona. Frank, give us 30 seconds on how long you've been in foam and why on earth did you get in?
I guess I've been, this year marks about 23 years that I've been in the spray foam industry. And I mean, to be completely transparent on why I got into it is because I needed a job back when I was having little kids. I had, honestly, I mean, that's the brutal reality of it, right? I never proactively got into spray foam because I wanted to, right? I needed the job, and this, here we are, a couple decades later. So
why did you stay in? Did you like it?
Parts of it, yeah, right. The challenges of it I kind of liked, and that's why, and as you're adjusting to these challenges and you're becoming more comfortable in the spray foam world, well, we all know that at that point in time, now you're clicking 10, 11, 12 years in the industry once it kind of starts making sense to you. And I mean, at that point, I can't learn something different. So we just run with it.
You're sucked in. There's no getting out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're in, especially in that point in time, when you're owning, a decade into it and you're owning your own rigs and your own company, and there's a little more meaning to it there. So then pretty committed at that point.
Yeah.
So next I'm going to the guy that chimed in. We'll just come a little farther east to Texas. Matt Browning.
Hey, good morning.
What happened with you? Give us 30 seconds on how long you've been in and why you got into it.
So May just turned 20 years for me. Kind of similar story to Frank. Started out as a business owner. Got into it by default. So we had a company come out to give us an estimate to spray one of my dad's shops and gave us just some crazy number. And we were like, man, we could do this. How much does a rig cost? So started hunting around and teamed up with a company, bought a rig, and I never looked back. I mean, I guess ISO in my blood, I guess. So it's been a good run.
And for some reason, you seem to still enjoy it. You show up early every time we invite you to something.
Every time. I love it. I mean, this industry is so cool. I mean, in the 20 years, these guys can tell you from where we started 20 plus years ago to where we are now as an industry with guys like you promoting building science, and just we're constantly learning, and it's just a cool industry. I mean, once you're in, you're in. I don't think there's any getting out.
Nice. So let's go up north. Talk to somebody that deals with the cold and the closed cell. Ted, what happened with you? I know you were a builder. I know you were a cop. So why spray foam? Well, how long ago was your first spray foam experience, and what got you in?
I want to say it was around probably 90, 98, 97 thereabouts. Building and wanting to do things differently, and new building products and all that came out, and I was trying to, be cutting edge in the building industry. And so I saw a need for it, and I found a company that would do it for me. And I worked my way into it and got my hands wet, if you will. I started spraying probably, I would say right around 2000, 2001. I bought my first actual rig in 2005, right around the same time I think Matt did. And that was pretty much the end of the story for me. type of construction that I was doing. I was doing log homes all over the place. Couldn't get contractors at all to even answer my call, much less do the work, because it was, at the time, wasn't really recognized, like hot roof applications and all that wasn't, and at that point in time was not acceptable. I'm sure you're aware of that. And so that's what got me in. And it's been my saving grace, honestly, through all the changes in the economies and the building industry and everything that's happened. I've always been able to fall back on spray foaming, and it's always supported me and my family. So it has been a good ride. And it becomes a passion, if you will. The knowledge and learning and everything that goes along with it. I'm really thankful that I found it, and I'm glad that I'm still doing it. So
nice. Speaking of saving grace and thankful, that's what a setup, Ted. Let's look at our part-time preacher, Jamie Reese, on the East Coast. Jamie, you had being an ex-squid and Navy dude, what happened? Because I know you had a relative kind of get you into this, but talk a little bit about what got you in.
Yeah, so I got out of the Navy, and it was not much out there when I got out, and my brother had a job building trailers, so I started building trailers and got into it that way, and started slowly learning about the industry and getting involved and becoming a tech. And I think me and Frank talked. We built his rig when he first got into the industry. So me and Frank go back a little bit because he was in one of my training classes. So yeah, it goes back to about 19, maybe 20, going on 20 years right now. Being in the industry, from being a tech to running a company to foam manager, I guess, for these bigger companies that have multiple rigs, to be understanding building science, just training people really is all what I do. So yeah, now I just train and foam and train. And I like to say I spray and pray sometimes too.
Don't we all?
So, Frank, how many rigs do you think you've worked on over the years?
Other
than all of them,
kind of look at like a combined answer here. I don't know. Like over my career, I mean, the numbers got to be in the hundreds, I would think. I mean, low hundreds, but I think that it would be up there. I mean, we're working on a ton of stuff here, for our customers specifically, but in my career doing it, I bet, I mean, it's got to be in the hundreds, I would think.
I was expecting you to say all of them.
I mean, yeah, all of them. Absolutely all of them. Yeah. The ones you want to work on, the ones you don't. Yeah, absolutely all of them.
How about you, Ted? You ever have one you didn't work on?
No, never. No, it's one guarantee you have. If it's rig and it's spray and foam, you're going to have to work on it.
Absolutely.
Jamie, I have a setup question for you. Should I get a used rig, or are you going to have to work on that?
Well, you got to be careful on getting used rigs. You got to really inspect it and know what you're looking for, right? Anything, if you see dried up ISO anywhere, that's a telltale sign that something might be going wrong. So just be careful. But if the machine power's up and pressure's up and the motor runs good and all the major components are running and up and running, you might find your little diamond in the rough, So it might be worth it. So, but you just got to be careful. You got to know what you're getting into.
Here I set you up, Jamie, because today aren't you working on a lump of coal?
Oh, I'm turning this into diamonds today. Yes, lump of coal. Motor's good. All the hard components are good with it. But we're just getting all the ISO components redone and refurbished, and he should be up and running by the end of the day, spraying foam.
You should see if they got trimmer in the toolbox, trim that beard up a little bit.
Oh, no. I'm trying to let it grow out and then get it a good.
I get you. Get some shape on it. Get some shape on it. Yeah.
Getting ready for wintertime.
Yeah.
That or Duck Dynasty. I don't know.
Well, they started the revival episode. So
well, he's in the South, You got to keep them mites at bay down there.
Yeah. If the shoe fits, right?
Look, it took me so long to grow this. At 19 years old, I didn't have facial hair in the military. All right. Yeah. So I was shaving every day and didn't need to. And now all of a sudden when I get it, I'm like, hey, I love this. This is nice.
Frank, do you see how far you took this podcast south?
Yeah.
Just by talking about his beard. So Ted, what is the biggest or the oddest thing you've ever sprayed?
Oh wow. You've heard this more recently. I still want to say the coolest thing that I was ever involved in was the L&T tank. So on a huge barge, like a 1,400-foot barge, it was this 5-story liquid natural gas tank. That was probably the most unusual thing I think I've sprayed. I mean, I've gone so far as to clean out, pressure wash out digester tanks, and I say that in the most like polite way. Basically, from manure, and you climb in there, and it'll about kill you, the methane gas, and then go on in there and clean those things out. And it's not always fun what you find in those things, especially when you get into the public utilities type tanks. You know, you get in there, you spray those with coatings. I'm getting off beat a little bit when it comes to spray foam, but I mean, I'm sure somebody else has a better story. But I would say the coolest thing I ever did was that L&T tank, 5 stories long, 1,400 feet long. That was by far the pinnacle of the things that I've been involved in.
How many sets was that?
That one was a total of 780. I think it ended up being 788 sets of foam.
Wow. That is a lot of foam.
Yes.
Isn't that a lot of foam? And then this week we get asked about a digester, and you've sprayed them, you know, and you've got these cities doing it. And Ted, that's not called manure, but I'm not going to get into what it's really called. we'll let Frank drop a 4-letter word on the thing.
I was gonna let Frank take over on the description of those tanks.
So speaking of you, Frank, what's the coolest or oddest or biggest thing you've ever sprayed?
The biggest, probably, you know, being from the Midwest, kind of like Ted, coming from South Dakota, a lot of big tanks and things up in the oil field in North Dakota. I've done a lot of work up there. So spraying big water tanks, big, you know, slurry water type tanks, inside, outside. As far as like a grand scale and size is probably the biggest. You know, I would have semi-loads of foam dropped in the oil field on a monthly basis, and we were spraying as much foam as we could. As far as uniqueness, I would think most unique thing I've ever sprayed is probably some parade floats for some customers in South Dakota.
Cool. Matt, what about you? You obviously there's a lot that goes on in Texas, and you've kind of been over the entire state.
Yeah. So probably the coolest and scariest, I guess you would say, would be we did a paper mill, and it was between the mill and the office was a giant wall. It was like 70 foot tall. And with all the moisture and heat inside the mill, it was rusting out a wall. So we came out, they replaced the metal. And as soon as they replaced the metal, we would foam it, but they wouldn't shut the mill down. So we had to spray it while the mill was running. So, but between the wall and the actual mill wasn't about 12 feet wide, just wide enough to get a giant boom lift to reach 60, 70 foot. When you're 70 foot in the air and you look down at that mill and it's still running, it's pretty scary, because if you drop something or fall into that running mill, it's just going to squish you like crazy. So it was pretty wild.
You're going to be on the front page, right? No pun intended.
Yeah, they wouldn't find you, I promise. It would. Yeah.
I didn't picture you as being that morbid, Matt. Do you have any happy stories? Just kidding.
Yeah, I'm sure I do.
So, Jamie, you're in the Southeast. Anything interesting down there?
You know, we got heavy movie productions up here. So I have been on a couple of movie movies, Black Panther 2, the waterfall scene, did it all in foam, styrofoam, and polyureas, stuff like that. Been doing tanks, biodiesel tanks outside of them, priming them and then coating them. So those was fun. And second containments, OEMs for Grady White boats, filling them with injection field shots, learning how to time shot and all that stuff. I mean, it's been cool. It's been an adventure. I ain't gonna lie. I got to see some neat stuff that I didn't think foam could do. And we start watching it put into systems with polyureas, acrylics, silicones, and see how that systems all work together. It's been awesome, man. There's been a lot of cool stuff, from movies to boats to second containments in oil fields to mines. I mean, I've been doing it.
I love that. The diversity is really, I'm amazed how much money gets made in the diversity, because these are kind of one-off projects. But, Stranger Things, that whole upside down, all those caves, those were in Georgia, and that was actually foam that we sold. And I watched that. I watched where they were filling mine shafts in Colorado for the government, where you just drop a balloon down and dump a bunch of pour in place over the top of it. I
Right,
think
sweet.
the most dangerous I saw was the Dryer's ice cream plant in California. They had to foam the creamery line that went over the 405 freeway, which, if you know anything about California, that never closes. I still, to this day, don't know how they did it because it happened in my sleep. So, but we had customers go do it, and it was pretty wild. So now, Ted, I'm going to ask you first. What is like when you walked up to a job site, what do you think's the coolest thing you've ever seen on a job site that a contractor did? You didn't think of it, but you thought it was so brilliant or innovative that you just had to teach it to other people.
That's opening up a can of worms. I would have to say, this doesn't sound very revolutionary, but for me at the time, I think it was. I had a contractor, this is a lot of years ago, before we started doing it. He started building up his eaves, sheeting them up and controlling where the air came through at the eaves on the outside of the wall. And then, requested that I foam that. This is a lot of years ago, before any of that was even happening. And then on top of that, we decided that once it was, and there again, this isn't revolutionary because we've been doing this a long time, but this is, you're going back 25 years, probably, maybe more now. I don't know. So once we had the drywall up, we went up and we sprayed all those. He framed those up. And I think he really set the stage, even in the strong backing on knee walls and stuff to attics and all that. And then we foamed all those locations because those are all weak spots that typically would fail. And then we went through and we air sealed the attic. And this is a lot of years ago. Like I said, long before anybody even talked about it. And I thought at that time, that was revolutionary. And so that is something that I've tried to encompass in all the homes that I've been involved in, which I can't tell you how many that is, but it's a lot of homes over the last 30 years. And I think that has really set the stage for changing the way that residential construction, especially in the North, right? I think down South, you guys have a long ways to go. No offense.
Hey now.
You guys are only 20 or 30 years behind, but eventually we'll catch you guys up.
Oh, Ted's just been eliminated from the. How did Ted get dropped? I don't know what happened there.
Who invited this guy?
I just wanted to open it up to the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
Try to help you out and in the right direction. That's all.
It's funny that you say that, though, because the truth is, what we see today, and we're like, oh, we always do that. Well, no, at one point that was innovative. So it really is a good point. So, Frank, how about you? I mean, what are things that you've seen on a job site where you're like, wow, I wish I'd have thought of it, or you thought of it and then everybody else was doing it? What have you seen out there?
I think in my career, I'd like to kind of, pony off of Ted's point, back in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, when I was working for another company and kind of getting going on my own, we were, when we were doing retrofits and vac and attics, we were air sealing attics back then before it was a thing. And I kind of thought that was pretty revolutionary back then. I know I was in a smaller town in South Dakota, but we were the only gig doing it. And I felt like it was making a difference, right? Not just an upsell or something like that to a customer. It was really making a difference before we came back in and re-insulated the attic. So I felt that was pretty revolutionary back in the early 2000s. As far as like nowadays, I have recommended to a lot of our customers, we do a lot of open cell down here. So we're spraying common walls between the house and garage. And it seems like the biggest fight is finding good backing so that the open cell is not pushing and we're not holding up sheetrock, things like that. What we found that works very well is like landscape fabric from a landscape wholesaling company in town. Guys use that black landscape fabric. Maybe you put half a box of staples, too many in it to keep it tight, but it doesn't push. Foam doesn't spray through it. It might spray through, but it's only going to grow on the backside, maybe 1/16 of an inch, something like that. You can still sheetrock and not have to touch the backside of it. So I feel like that's pretty revolutionary for us here in Phoenix. It makes it pretty quick. It seems like we tried about everything under the sun, and then that's the answer. And one more thing I saw this week in Spokane, Washington, I talked to Browning a little bit about it. This sprayer I had a Hilti exoskeleton. So Hilti product, goes on like a backpack, straps across your chest, straps across your waist, and then has some of these like cups or these straps that strap to your biceps and literally hold your arms up like this. Like, and you can adjust the tension here, but the guy was spraying foam and literally was holding like an FX gun and a chunk of hose in his right hand. And we can adjust the tension because it's all ran on a cam system, like a compound bow. And we could adjust the tension, and he just stands there with his arm in the air, just moving his wrists, walking across the wall, spraying foam.
I think we need to do a video on that.
Yeah.
100%. He said it was $1,500, but I get, he's like cheaper than a shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
And if you can, like Browning and I were kind of talking, if you had crews of guys that are producing foam every week and, they start Monday full of energy, but by Wednesday they're whipped, right? But if you could add this little piece of equipment to the mix and they're pretty fresh all week, I mean, that's, that increases production. That makes that $1,500 worth it all day long. So,
well, and to your point, I don't know anything more brilliant than saying it's cheaper than a shoulder surgery. How many people do we know in our industry that have had one?
How many foamers on this call can like reach and put your arm above your head? Probably zero. It was pretty cool though, because too, like I think the selling point for me is it fit underneath his moon suit. So nothing is out, like he takes it off, it's clean every time. And
that's pretty cool.
Pretty impressive piece of equipment. It's like, us guys, we're kind of old school in the game, right? So you see some equipment like that, it's kind of like cheating.
That's awesome. If it gives you the dexterity and everything. It was funny. I had a call yesterday from a guy that came through our class 11 years ago, and he's a builder. And I'm going to wind up doing a podcast with him because he goes, I do nothing but I came in because I build these big houses. And I'm like, how big? He's like 10 to 14,000 square feet. And his average bill in the summer, highest bill of the year, $300.
Wow.
10 to 14,000 square feet. So, anyone that says what we do doesn't make a difference, well, it does. But you've got to do the full caulk and sealing package and all of that. But it works. And so, you just can't knock it. But so, Matt, same question. What's the coolest thing you've ever seen on a job site or something a contractor did? And you're like, hey, that, I've got to teach other people to do this.
I would say maybe not so much on a contractor or maybe a contractor invented it. I don't know, but I would assume a spray foamer was, when did a curry comb come in existence? Right? I mean, why take I'll take a simple horse brush, and I guarantee you 20 years later, however long it's been, it's in every foam rig out there. And it's just a simple curry comb. So
absolute staple though.
I mean, really.
Sure. Yeah.
Who thought of that? It's genius.
That's a great point. It needs to be on every rig. You're absolutely right. Like a new rig should have a curry comb hanger.
It should have 4 of them on there all the time. Yeah.
All the time.
And let's get one thing straight here though, you guys. Curry combs in my neck of the woods, we save them for the horses.
Oh yeah.
We'll sell foam and curry combs.
Right. That's what I used to use back in the day in South Dakota, and that's the worst combination ever.
But also, Ted, you have to scrape within a day. You don't come back tomorrow.
Hey.
I'm sorry, Matt, you weren't done. Go ahead.
Oh no. So the other thing that I started doing back in the day before CI cutters and turbo cuts, were invented, we just had our Sawzall shavers, right? So at the end of a job, you push all the trash into the corner and you just got mounds and mounds of chunks of foam, open cell, obviously. So I'm like, and a lot of the builders would complain about, how much space I was taking up in their dumpster. So I was just sitting there one day, I'm like, how can I get all this to compact or whatever? I just took a weed eater, literally push the foam into a corner of the house and take a weed eater and just chop it up. And believe it or not, it would cut my number of trash bags in half, if not more, just by, chopping it up into small pieces.
Okay,
Oh, I got some looks, I'm in somebody's living room, with a weed eater just hacking some foam, and they're just like, what is this guy doing?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Frank, you need an Italian last name. You got a problem? Don't worry about it. So, Jamie, how about you? What's the coolest thing?
It's the simplest thing, right? It's the glue stick and the drill bit.
That's a good one. Yep.
I mean, I went on a job site. They didn't have a pin vise. We needed to clean it out, and they just heated up a drill bit, put it into a glue stick, and then boom, they had them a pin vise. And I mean, over the years, you start seeing like things like that where the sprayers has been very innovative. And dude, I take it back with me. The what is it? The two bristles to pull out your broken drill bit out of a gun, where you get two steel brush bristles and put in there, and then just kind of pull the drill bit out.
Yep.
I mean, them are techniques, that we
sometimes
innovation. Well, sometimes, but it helps. It comes through a pinch. I mean, and then you look at everything else that's been invented, the Tennessee chill box, the like Frank is saying, the exoskeleton and all this stuff, man. I mean, it's just innovative. Like even concrete lifting foam. You want to talk about a big one? We was doing spray foam. Now we're lifting concrete with foam. So I don't know. Everything. This whole industry is amazing. And it's all innovative. I love it. I love the innovation that people get.
Ted, without exposing anyone, this is like, change the names to protect the innocent or whatever you got to do. But what's the worst thing you've experienced? Have you been on, have there been rigs or job sites you wouldn't even go on?
There absolutely has been. There's been some rigs where I hate to admit this, but there's been some rigs that I've walked up to that I just opened the door and I turned around and walked away. And I was just in one, and I was reluctant to take pictures because I had already made some comments, and I think I had already upset the owner of this company, right? And they had 5 rigs sitting there.
Yeah.
And we walked. They had the hose laying. I mean, it was endless. Everything I turned around, when I looked at the compressor, when I looked at the generator, when I looked at the reactor, when I looked at the hose, when I looked at the pumps, everything that could be wrong in this rig was wrong. And I would like to say that that's rare, but I think when I tell people, when I talk about, I mean, everybody calls it something different, right? And they'll say, yeah, I don't know what happened. It was working great all the way up until last week. And you look at their ISO, and there's literally it looks like there was ants on the floor that built a mound that's almost a foot high. And then it looks like a candle that's been dripping, and they can't figure it out because up until last week, it was working great. So I probably just stole a bunch of thunder here on this with everybody else, but absolutely can. And even just to the point where I opened up the door, I was in Tulsa, right? I was at the service center, and this guy wanted, hey, could you look at my rig? Could you check it out and just see if there's anything I need to do? And we're like, sure. I was there with another tech of ours, a service tech, right? Adam says to me, hey, could you go out and check on that rig? I said, sure. So because we got some other stuff done, I walked out there, I opened up the door, and stuff just literally fell out the back door. And I thought, no way. And I was trying to see up to the front because there's another door up. And I thought, well, maybe I can get at the reactor from up there. Well, I opened that door, and I think the guy's kids, there was a kid's bike in there. Well, anyway, long story short, it took me almost an hour to clean the rig out to the point where I could actually get to the reactor.
Yeah, rolling storage unit. I haven't. Yeah. Hey, Frank, when I asked Ted that question, you about lost it. What? Yeah. What's so? I'll ask it again. So don't expose anybody. But what's your worst?
That's a big question. We like to say every customer's perfect, but let's be honest, man, I deal with some train wrecks, Ken. The last one I've been on to Ted's point, oh, my rig was running fine last week. Can you come look at it? It's not pumping today. You get there, you open the back door, the inlet pump's been leaking on the A side for conservatively 3 or 4 years probably, and they don't stop the leak. They don't fix it, right? We just put a bucket under it because that makes it go away. So when I get on the rig, it's reactor 1. You cannot take the front panel of the cabinet, the panel off of the front because it's, the ISO's 6-8 inches deep in front of it and built around the reactor. So you can't get the cover off the 5 gallon bucket on the floor looks like a 2.5 gallon bucket because there's so much ISO around it. And it's like, you could have stuck a crescent wrench on this a decade ago and fixed this problem, but with this, we just slide a bucket under it. That'll take care of it. It'll seal itself off eventually, right? but there's just so many. It's such a big region out here in the West, right? So there's so many states, there's so many different foam rigs. Everybody takes care of them differently, but the people that don't, boy, they just really don't.
They just sure don't.
And they there is no repairing them. That's the unfortunate part, right? When something goes down, it's all about a Band-Aid just to get us to the end of the job and keep the rig running for tomorrow, right? There is no actually replacing the part or repairing the part. It's just keeping a small Band-Aid on it and keeping the rig running. And everybody could probably attest to it. That makes our job pretty tough, when we're trying to support chemical and you're trying to, customers asking you what they think they're going to get for yield. I just tell them we don't get to have those conversations yet. We're a long ways from those talks, buddy.
First, we need to put on the diaper, and then we'll work out getting to the bottom. And the
absolutely. Yeah, yield does not matter.
Frank, something you said is critical there, and that is, until you've got a rig that is the way it was designed to run, we cannot talk about yield. Because what's going to happen? Well, I don't know. It's the best answer you've got. I answer this to my guys all the time. They're like, so do you think this or this? And I'm like, yes. Because what other answer can I give you? I have no idea what the outcome's going to be unless we do both or whatever that is. So, Matt, you've been very quiet. You didn't even laugh during those. Not that you're scarred. I know rigs are perfect in Texas. But
every one of them, because I work on them. They're perfect.
Here we go.
So I'm going to change the question for you, Matt. Your question's actually going to be along the same line, without exposing anybody. But have there ever been job sites that you walked up and you're just not going to go? Nope.
Yes. One in particular. Sales rep called and said, hey, I got a guy that's been spraying a while, but he's got a newer sprayer, just wanted a little bit of help, technique, whatever. So he was like, he's almost done with his job, but can you at least pop in to see if you can give him some tips? Like, cool. He's like, he may have like an hour of spraying left or less than an hour. So we get there, me and the sales rep, and we actually beat the owner and the sprayer there. So we literally, it was an add-on to an office building, metal building, and we walked in, and there was literally ISO dripping from the ceiling. And we go, and it was almost a completed job. This was, 3/4 of a set job. Every inch of that building was dripping ISO. It was horrible. I was like, we got to get out of here now. We're not touching it. IDI does not need their name on it. Believe it or not, it wasn't our material. Just, it was a train wreck from the get-go. I was like, we need to get out of here. So we literally left. We called the customer. Y'all need to rip this foam out, and when you buy our chemical, we'll come back and help your sprayer. So yeah, it was pretty bad.
Wow. Yeah, that's a walk away. No doubt about it. So Jamie, how about you? You come on, you're in the South. I know you've got something that's gone wrong.
You hear a couple of customers' name that comes out, and then you're like, oh, do I got to go work on that? But you just know, right? You just know. Yeah, there's it. It's some of those, like, what it's the maintenance, and it's usually the people that does high volume, no maintenance. Is the worst ones, right? They get out there and they spray all day, but they don't do nothing for the rig. They don't do the 5-minute, 10-minute maintenance at the end of the day to keep the rig going. And then them are the ones that you get on a job site and you're under the gun, right? Because you got to get it fixed now. So yeah, I don't like those. I don't like those at all. Because you're like, man, if you just took 5 minutes to do this, you wouldn't be in this mess right now. You wouldn't be down. Oh yeah, you're not getting a good product because you're not doing the maintenance.
Well, you've got that accent perfect. Have you ever walked up to a job site and done the Southern nice thing? Have you gone up and said, oh, bless your heart?
Oh yeah, I have. I said, oh, bless your little hearts. And just smile at them and like, you know, you put on your customer service voice, get out there and do your thing.
Our customer service voice is different in Arizona, apparently.
I know. I hear you after hours. I know how it sounds.
Okay, so Matt, with what do you believe is the biggest contract or the biggest contributor to a contractor's success in this industry?
Oh, 100% hands down a partner.
A
That's
partner.
Yeah. Well, partner as in a distributor. So that got me through, my early stages is having, IDI as a chemical partner, right? I had a tech came out. I probably called, I was probably the most annoying contractor starting out because I called this poor guy every other day, but he always answered. He helped me through, and man, we created a relationship, and I mean, it got me through tough times. So I would say the biggest thing is partner with a good distributor like IDI because they got me through a lot of issues back when I was a contractor.
So Frank, what do you see? What do you see as the top contributor to someone's success in this industry?
To Browning's point, having a partner, I think, is a big one because back in the day, I didn't have that, and even, we were getting foam when I first started with the company I worked for. We were buying from IDI. Wes Rupert was our sales guy. He would come out to Rapid City, South Dakota when he didn't have to. And so having a partner like that was a big deal. I wish they would have had tech support back then. It'd probably be a lot further, in the knowledge base than I am now. But it's nice to work through problems so that we do have the education and the experience to relate to our customers nowadays, right? But I think, if you're going to be a successful contractor in this industry, it takes, and I know it sounds super cliche, but it takes heart, 100%. It takes grit, and you just, and it takes the ability to keep your nose to the grindstone and just grind. That's what it takes. It's not for the weak-hearted. It's not for the weak-hearted. It's not for everybody. Let's be honest. On the best day of spraying and on the best day, us tech and when we're working with customers, it is still a labor-intensive pull. This is a hard job from start to finish. From the minute that rig leaves the shop to the minute it gets back is a very labor-intensive pull. So you have to, in addition to heart and grit, I mean, I think the biggest contributor is probably commitment. Like if you're getting into spray foam, you're all in or you're not. You don't dip your toe in the water and try it out, or, I'm going to try to save a few bucks on this generator or something like that. Those are not the answers. We're in or we're not.
I agree with that. I am so glad you said that because, you see, not to just knock everything, but cheap equipment gives you cheap results and you wind up working on things. I would throw in, and I'm going to throw in my 2 cents on this one. I think it's education because we can also jack up houses. We can, if I've got, and Matt knows this because we're in Texas, but down here, we've got ductwork in 170-degree attics, and you just go foam that and leave the same size equipment in there. We've wrecked a house. Now we just have this water-making facility and sick people inside. And so
but yet it's the foam's fault. It's the foam's fault, Ken.
Yeah. Just dealt with that.
Mhm.
Oh, see, there you go. So, all right. So, Ted, we'll go back to the north again. You can talk about how we screw it up all the time. No, seriously. What do you see as the biggest contributor to success? Especially in your area.
I think, I think this would be any area, I would assume, right? But 35 plus years being in business, I think answering your phone, answering when people call you, answer your phone, call people back, get them the information that they want. It sounds simple, it sounds easy, but that's a winning factor right there. I think also for me, one of the biggest selling points or one of the biggest advantages I had over the other contractors that I worked with, several things, but the one thing was understanding building science, like coming in and having an answer for the questions and explaining it to the point to where your customers could understand what you were talking about, right? So that it made sense to them. Which, I mean, if you're going to upsell or change something on a project, being able to explain that, why it's beneficial, how it's going to benefit them, whether it's comfort or economically or both, I think was a huge selling point for me. And I think that being able to do that was really set me aside from the other people out there. And then lastly, coming in, doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, cleaning up the job and making it look better than it did when you walked in there, when you're done with the work. And then always, if anybody ever calls or they need you follow up, you do it and you get it done immediately. I think those things for me were key to success. And, and I think that keeps you out of the hot seat. Ultimately, that sets you aside from everybody else.
Nice. So, Jamie, what do you got to add to that? What in your mind is the biggest contributor to success?
Well, everybody hit on it, right? And I mean, everyone had good points, but I would say going back to knowledge and understanding, like what you said, knowledge was a big thing for me. If I could understand what I'm spraying and why I'm spraying it, then I could do a good job. I could do it. Like Ted saying, if one thing changed in that building, and changing that one thing can change the whole way that building works, then if we understand how to fix it, right, and how to go about it, if we're adding spray foam here, then we need to put a dehumidifier here, or put a fresh air unit in there and all that. So it's just understanding. I think we say it best in our training, to be successful, and then that leads, or to be knowledgeable leads to profitability, leads to success, right? And that's what we echo in training. Like Frank said, we have them bad days, and I echo this. When it's a good day, it's a good day. When it's a bad day, it's a lesson, right? And for spray foam. So we learned a lesson, we get better at it, and we keep moving forward. And that's what's going to make us better, is actually learning the lessons.
So, Frank, what is the most repetitive piece of advice you give on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis? What do you wind up saying the most?
I think the most repetitive piece of advice I give to our customers is pre-maintenance, right? Staying 3 steps ahead and 1 step behind all the time.
Not to let you off yet, what pre-maintenance are you talking about?
Taking care of your equipment, right? Making sure that we're maintaining generators and air compressors and changing the oil and keeping everything running like it should, right? Keeping an adequate amount of said O-rings or cartridges or whatever it looks like, gun parts, pump parts, whatever it looks like on that rig, to keep them productive and moving forward, to keep downtime to a minimum. That is the biggest thing I preach. Because, if you have a rig set up to be productive, now downtime is a matter of minutes, to where if you don't have some of this stuff, it could be, 2-3 days, week, whatever that looks like. So just setting them up, giving the customer all the tools they need to be successful. There's my politically correct answer. To try to, to help them be successful. And once they have, I have some customers that are like that, and we set their rigs up real good to be production rigs. And it's way easier when something happens on that rig and they call, to be able to walk through the problems with it on the phone, because they have what they need to fix the problem. So that's probably my biggest thing, is just pre-maintenance.
So, Matt, what is your most repetitive advice? What do you have to say all the time?
It's in your gun. Check your gun.
You shouldn't have to say anymore, Ken. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
That's it. That's you know what?
Right.
1 point for Matt.
That's honestly, it's probably 75% of our calls. And then they would all agree. It's not always the gun, but most of the time it's the gun, because it's the workhorse. I mean, that's where it's getting abused. That's, it's
chemical meeting.
Exactly. So there's a lot of moving parts and things that can go wrong in a gun. And I get it. A lot of these guys don't truly spend the time to understand how the mechanics work on a spray foam gun. But yeah, I would say the biggest answer is, the issues in the gun. Having the proper O-rings, the proper drill bits. Drill bits are probably a big one. These guys switch chamber sizes, and they got a tackle box in the rig that's not labeled. It's just thrown in there. And they get it confused or mixed up, right? If they're one day spraying with a 52 and then they switch to a 42, well, then the drill bits get all mixed up and they just start mixing and matching drill bits, and it's not going to work. So I would say that's the biggest call for me.
So what about you, Jamie? What are your, you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm going to have to say this again today?
Oh, I got a tally sheet. It's a week long. So every time I step on a new rig, I always look at the TSL and I say, oh, guess what? You got to change your TSL. That's the one I repeat more than anything. Every rig I step on is change your TSL. Change your TSL. It's milky white. You think that'd be preemptive, right? They know I'm coming and they're like, oh, well, we better change the TSL. But no, get on there and it's milky white.
Jamie, you know what that's called? That's called Labrador training. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. The next time I see you a week later, stop that. So Ted, how about you? What's your most repetitive?
Temperature of your product, right? People don't realize if it's summertime and it's, say you wake up in the morning and you go outside and it's 68 degrees or 72 degrees, or like if you're in Dallas, like we were this week, it's 83 degrees in the morning and you go out and you fire up your rig and you start spraying. Well, like next week, say it's September, and you get up in the morning and it's 55 degrees. Now they go to spray and everything is set the same and they go to spray and they can't figure out why they can't make it spray.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, but you can almost write it down and guarantee. Now I haven't been doing this that long, but I've been doing it long enough that I get the same calls from the same people every season.
Exactly.
And if they can't make their beat pump work and it's 100 degrees outside and it's been 100 degrees every day, they can't figure out something's wrong and the product is bad. And you say, well, what temperature is your barrel? I don't know. I turned the air conditioning on when I started the rig. Yeah, but remember I just said it was 85 degrees and it was still hot from yesterday. And they shoot the barrel and it's 98 degrees and the B side's bubbling out of the thing and they can't figure out why they can't get. So temperature, Ken.
I am so glad you said that because that was mine. You know, Ted, you know as well as I do, we were looking at the new blowing agent and we were playing around with closed cell. And the number one concern that even Dow Chemical had was, and Honeywell, you know, the manufacturer of the blowing agent says, chemical storage temperatures are affecting this product more than before, and chemical storage is the top reason why we're seeing foams pull away. It's the top reason we're seeing hourglassing, and where it's having, you know, massive problems in the middle of a 3-inch lift. So, you know, we'll just say the two big kids on the block nationally with all these locations and over 1,000 rigs had to tell their people they can't spray more than 2 inches because we can't seem to keep the chemical where it needs to be in order to do any more than that.
Absolutely. And it's not just your resin, Ken. The ISO has such a huge impact now on these new blow agents and the new formulations that we have right now. And I'm going to say too, it also impacts the open cell. And I'll leave that to you guys because you guys are good at one thing. And no, I'm just kidding. Because you're specialized in open cell.
Wow, Ted brought a knife.
Totally kidding.
Ted brought a knife.
But ISO too, guys. It's you know, I mean, and even us techs, we go back and forth, and you know, like what's going on, and you're like, I don't know, man. Might be temperature, and 1 degree seems to change everything these days where it really didn't mean anything, you know, in the 245 days, but it certainly does now. So I'm going to go with temperature since I was last on the list.
Well, Matt, I'm going to start with you on this next one. I think I've heard you talk about this one before. So what's your biggest challenge when helping a customer? And what I'm asking specifically is, are the crews welcoming or open to telling you what actually went wrong?
No.
Ooh, I get both. Obviously when we show up, we're the savior, right? Something's broke and they're like, hey, this guy's here to help us. So on that aspect of it, when they're down, we're a savior. When something in their mind is wrong with our material, generally it leans back towards the equipment. Their brain is focused on, you sold me bad foam, but they're kind of forgetting to look at the simple stuff on the equipment side. I'm not saying bad foam can't happen. It does, but it's rare. So I would say just getting the proper information out of them regarding the equipment to help them diagnose an issue. So getting the proper information is tough. Not to say that they're trying to lead you, down the wrong path. To just maybe they forgot some little piece of whatever they forgot that happened. I get a call all the time. Something's wrong, blah, blah, blah. And we'll go down this rabbit hole trying to figure out, is it gun? Is it this? Is it that? Well, then they forgot to mention to you that they ran out of foam an hour ago and the pump was just going boom, 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 boom. it's something that simple that they, forgot to tell you. And I try to ask as often as I can, but your mind is going down this way and you just like forget the simple stuff. Well, it's a stupid pump. They just ran out of foam and it sucked up some air. So, yeah, it's a lot to gather out of it, especially a new customer that doesn't know the terminology. So I would say for new guys, learn the terminology, because that's how we speak. What's a stick pump? What's a displacement pump? All the different terms these guys need to know. So when we call and spit out a term, they need to know what we're talking about. So I would say that's a big key point.
Is that the thingy with the icicles hanging off of it?
Yeah.
So Ted, I'm going to ask it a little bit differently to you, because I know that this has happened in the North. So have you, obviously, what's your biggest challenge? Are they welcoming? Are they open to telling you what went wrong? Have you showed up and they didn't want you there, and then a couple hours later, they're like, "We're so glad you came"?
100%. Absolutely. Yep. And it happens more often than you think too. And I understand that, and I would want everybody to know, and I try to tell people this: I'm not here to step on your toes. I'm only here to help you, and I think once you have an opportunity to allow them to open up, to talk to you, to get information from them, and to show them and prove to them that you're really there to benefit them, not to belittle, not to like change their ways, or not to say that what they're doing is wrong, but we're only there to help them and maybe change a few things and educate them on some things that maybe they aren't aware of, whether it's equipment or it's product and product changes. But I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, we run into some arrogance, and I get that, because I was that guy, when they would say IDI would call me and say, "Hey, you want a tech out there at the phone?" I'm like, why would I need a tech? I don't need a tech. I mean, if you send a tech, I'll teach them how to spray foam if you want. But so I try to put myself in that mindset of where I was, because I was probably not the best guy to deal with when it comes to that sort of thing. And so I try to make that part of my thought process when I walk up to somebody. And first thing I do is, try not to point any fingers and try not to put anybody on the spot.
Right. I see you nodding to that, Jamie, about not pointing fingers. So what's your biggest challenge when helping a customer, and them being welcoming and telling you what went wrong and all of that?
Well, one big thing as techs, we create rapport with the customer. So to keep that rapport and all that, Ted's absolutely right. Pointing fingers and all that would definitely start trying to throw a blame game around, and that's not what it's about unless we have definitive evidence that says, "Hey, yeah, this happened." But the problem is it's symbiotic. When we're out there with our customers, we're trying to get them up and going so that they can continue spraying our foam. So we're out there just trying to help them. I mean, I'm going to echo what Ted says a little bit, because I agree 100%. We're out there helping them to get up. It's not about teaching them nothing new or nothing like that. It's more about getting them making good foam, making good yield, and just spraying the optimal foam they can spray. And that's what it's about. And that's what, the resistance I get is they think that we're there to teach them something or to tell them this is how they need to do it. And they don't want to do it that way. And the hardest thing you can do for a sprayer is break his bad practices. Right. So, but I can tell you, training many other techs across the board over the years that came from the spray foam background, you got to get the sprayer out of them and teach them how to be a tech. That's two different things, right? It opened my eyes, and now I just want to take that knowledge and give it to them. And it's not that I want to say, "Hey, I want to be a better tech than what I had," which I didn't have one. So that's what I try to be. And that's kind of how I relate with them and create that rapport with them. I'm just trying to be better than what I had,
I think that's a good point, because even, you could talk about being somebody that did cabinets your whole life, and you're like, "Look, buddy, I've sanded oak my entire life. What are you going to tell me about oak?" Well, the problem is we just changed blowing agents and it's no longer oak that you're working with. It's hickory, which loves to bend and warp and do all this. And this new chemical, you can, or even Honeywell goes, well, you can't keep the two sides at the same temperature, but under 245 FA you did. Well, now you have to change these temperatures. They've got to diversify from each other or be 10 degrees apart. And, this is things that when you're pulling the trigger, you don't know that. Nobody's come out and said that unless you're going to welcome somebody. And, so Frank, how about you? What's been the biggest challenge when helping customers and, kind of, having them open to you?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? To Ted's point, there's a lot of pride in this industry. So anybody that's got any amount of spraying time under their belt, carries a little bit of that pride, and we get that little bit of ego stuff that comes and the little prima donna-ness of it. But when I get on rigs, I'm to everybody here, to their point, like we're just trying to create rapport, right? We're there to help. I'm not there to change what you're doing. I'm not there to try to undo everything and redo it. So, when I'm working with customers, I've just kind of found a way that I can ask the questions in a certain way to get the answers that I need without touching the ego buttons, without pressing on their pride and stuff a little bit. And I feel like that's worked pretty good. Once they, I guess I should say, once they believe us, right? Once we're on those rigs and they believe that we know what we're talking about, and that we know what we're doing, that kind of changes the scene of everything.
Yeah. Once we prove that we have a value, and that we have something to offer, and that we're there. You can always feel when that, I'm stealing your spot, but you can always feel when that wall comes down, and they open up to you, and you have that connection, and then you can really start to offer them things,
right.
And you open up that communication, and I'm stealing your spot, Frank, and I'm sorry, Ken.
Oh, that's okay.
But once you do that too, that gives me the opportunity to learn from these guys, because you get somebody that's got 20 years of experience, man. I look at them as someone that has something to offer me. Like, what can I get from that person? You know what I'm saying? And I've learned so much from all the people that I've had the opportunity to work with here at IDI. It's been a great ride. So
spot stealer. I mean, Ted.
I'm sorry, but man, yeah. It was Frank's, but he gave it to me.
So if a customer is struggling with a foam, what's the main information you need to help them? Say you're not there. You're talking to them on the phone.
Well, we have to go back to, and this is what Matt was talking about, and what we've all talked about. But going back to, we gotta go back to the beginning, right? So we go back to temperatures, right? We find out what their storage temperatures are. We figure out how to do that without like giving them too much information, because then they'll give us misinformation, possibly. But go back to that, then go back to the equipment, and then try to set everything up to that point to get it out to the gun. And then at the end of the day, oftentimes it ends up being the gun if there is a problem. But we have to go back to the beginning. We have to take all those things, and we have to make sure that we have all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted, in order to ensure that we have something good coming out at the end, and then also trying to do that like over the phone, because a lot of what we do is over the phone, being able to translate that information to a point where they can understand it is really the complicated part of it.
Yeah.
So Matt, anything different than that?
It's difficult on the phone. I mean, on site, in person is one thing, but on a phone, halfway across the country talking to a guy, some of these rigs I've never even been on, right? They just call. I've only spoke to them on the phone. You assume their setup is correct, but so you're having to diagnose a lot of potential issues over the phone, and it can be difficult, challenging for sure. Thank God for FaceTime, right? I mean, I have FaceTimed a ton of customers, and it does go a little bit faster being able to visualize, what's going on with it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have on that.
So Matt, I'm going to start with you on the last question. If your children wanted to get into this, or your brother or your sister or somebody like that, what's the best advice you could give them?
Oh man, I would say for my kids, maybe don't get into it, but no, it's been a good industry for me. I would say wear a respirator, right? Don't be stupid, because I am sensitized now, 20 years into it. It's a real thing, does happen. And it wasn't when I was installing foam, obviously I had a mask on. So when I sprayed, yeah, that was protected there. But it was the years later when I was getting a little bit bigger and growing, having my installer spraying, I would pop into a job site, spend 5-10 minutes walking around without a respirator, doing that day after day after day. It finally caught up to me, and literally walked into a job site. I was fine. When I left, got my truck, I could barely breathe, chalked it up to allergies. Next day, same thing, started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Oh, crap. I'd say it's already got me. So I would say respirator for sure.
Cool. Frank, your kids are getting in. You can't talk them out of it. What are you going to tell them?
Oh, yeah, run. Yeah, spray foam's not for everybody. No, I probably, back to my point, like I said earlier, right? If somebody's getting into spray foam, it's all or nothing. You know, if you want to do this correctly and you want a shot at being successful, it's all or nothing. You know, you don't just kind of get into spray foam.
Brilliant answer. Brilliant answer. Ted, what would you tell them?
Well, I couldn't convince my son to do it, but if I had another son in another lifetime, I would tell him the same thing. I think ultimately it comes down to longevity, you know, all the things that it takes to run a business and do all that. But I think ultimately fresh air, you know, take care of yourself. You can't last if you don't physically take care of yourself on that job site. If you don't wear the proper PPEs and you don't do that, the stuff can kill you if you don't take care of yourself. And that would be my number one. I could teach you how to run a business. We can do that over a long period of time, but it only takes a few exposures, and you can really affect yourself in the rest of your life. So that's what I would talk about.
And it's irreversible. So it's bad stuff.
Yep. Jamie, you agree?
Well, I do, and I can tell you when we're at the years where when we first started, OSHA didn't come out with fresh air, supplied air systems. You know, it was a requirement. They didn't come out with that when we first all started getting into it. We was using the old cartridge mask and, you know, not changing them out every 8 hours and all this stuff. I mean, we got into it at a pinnacle time when safety was just being paramount in it and actually advancing more. So, I mean, I agree with what Matt's saying. It's all about saving your lungs over time. You're messing with glue to atomize that can get deeper into your lungs, and it shows that. I mean, there's studies that show that glue will actually it decrease your lung activity quicker than as if you're aging. So I mean, so there's studies out there and all that. So just be safe. PPE is important. I mean, like Matt said too, he was going on a job site. It wasn't why he was spraying. It was when he was going to job sites, and you just think it's careless. You know, the VOCs ain't going to mess with you and all that. And you get out there and start standing back and not having your respirator on. You're still in the way of the VOCs. I mean, if you don't have proper ventilation and all that, I mean, you're still in the way. So I mean, it's just I love the way we're advancing in safety and getting there and getting more safe on the job and making that paramount on the job. So I mean, but yeah, if I have one thing to say to my kids, it's be safe. You know, you can do this. Just be safe doing it.
There you go, folks. Yeah, that's best advice we can give you from the best we've got in our country. That is our senior tech team. Guys, I cannot thank you enough for opening up your Friday morning, for talking to us about this, just being open and honest. But for all of you out there in podcast land, we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you take this advice to heart. And we also hope that you use our spray foam techs. They're out there to simply help you in business. They definitely, don't want to the point that's been said several times, they don't want to step on your toes, but we absolutely want to make sure you're successful. If you've got questions on any of the products we sell, any spray foam questions on tech, on replacing parts, any of that, we are your source, and we really do look forward to helping you grow your business every day.